Perfectionism is not the pursuit of excellence. Let's start there. Let's dismantle that myth right now. From the outside, it looks like a noble quest for the best. This is the hidden link, the unspoken story. You must understand that you are not running towards success. You are running from a feeling of being not good enough, of being unworthy, of being unsafe. A feeling you learned as a child was the most dangerous feeling in the world. For so many of us, perfectionism is not a personality trait we were born with. It is a survival strategy we were forced to learn. It is a trauma response, a brilliant and heartbreaking strategy developed by a small child, who is trying with every ounce of their being to find a sense of safety, love, and control in a world that offered them very little of it. It's the strata student, the flawless presentation, the immaculate home, the high-achieving employee. It is praised by the world as a virtue, a sign of discipline and ambition. The first is the environment of constant criticism and conditional love. In this home, love and approval were not a given. They were a wage you earned through performance. A good report card earned you a smile. A mistake, a messy room, a moment of childish imperfection earned you a frown. A harsh word, or the devastating withdrawal of affection. You, as a small child, learned a critical equation for survival. Performance equals love. Mistakes equal abandonment. So you became the perfect child. You learned to walk on a tightrope of flawlessness because you believed the chasm below was the loss of love itself. Your perfectionism was not about getting an A. It was a desperate attempt to secure your own emotional survival. And today, that harsh, relentless inner critic you live with, the one that berates you for the tiniest mistake. That is the ghost of the caregiver you could never quite please. It is their voice, internalized, still whipping you to perform, still telling you that your worth must be earned, again and again, every single day. But if you are the one living inside of it, you know the truth. Perfectionism is not a gentle striving towards the light. It is a frantic, desperate, and terrified flight from a darkness you can never seem to outrun. It is not an armor of strength, it is a cage of fear, and that cage was often built, piece by painful piece, in the unstable and unpredictable landscape of your childhood. To understand your perfectionism, you must stop looking at your present ambition and start looking at your past pain. Let's explore the environments where this cage is built. The second environment is the environment of chaos and unpredictability. In this home, the world was not safe. There may have been addiction, mental illness, conflict, or simply a constant humming state of emotional instability. You were simply visible. Your emotional needs went unmet. You were the parentified child, the one who had to take on responsibilities far beyond your years. The cost is your own humanity. It is the chronic anxiety, the constant low-grade fear of being found out as the imperfect person you actually are. It is the burnout from the relentless pressure of the inner critic. It is the inability to ever truly celebrate your successes, because the moment you reach a goal, your mind is already focused on the next, higher bar, or on the tiny flaw in your last achievement. It is the profound loneliness of being admired, but not truly known, because you never let anyone see the messy, vulnerable, imperfect human behind the flawless facade. The cage that was meant to keep you safe has become your prison. You had to be the emotional caretaker for your parents, the mediator in fights, the one holding the family together. In this role, mistakes were not an option. A mistake was not a learning opportunity. It could have real, serious consequences. Forgetting to do a chore could lead to a crisis. Failing to manage a parent's emotions could lead to an explosion. You had to be perfect because you were the glue. You learned that your reliability was your function, and that flawlessness was the price of keeping your world and your family intact. Today, your overdeveloped sense of responsibility, you're feeling that if you drop one ball, everything will fall apart. That is the echo of a child who was carrying a weight they were never meant to carry. Your feelings were dismissed. Your inner world was ignored. You learned that your authentic self, the person you were just by existing, was not enough to warrant attention or care. So you learned to achieve an A on a test, a trophy from a competition, a flawless performance in the school play. These were the things that made people look. These were the things that earned you a moment of praise, a fleeting sense of being seen. Perfectionism became your strategy to become visible. It was your way of screaming, "Look at me. I am here. I am worthy of your attention." Today, that relentless drive to achieve, that inability to rest until you've proven your worth, that hollow feeling even after a great success, that is the echo of the child who is still trying desperately to be seen. For a child, this is terrifying. Nothing feels solid, nothing feels dependable. In the heart of this hurricane, the child looks for one thing they can control, and the only thing they can control is themselves. Their grades, their room, their body, their behavior. Perfectionism becomes a desperate bid for order in a world of chaos. If they could just be perfectly good, perfectly quiet, perfectly compliant, maybe they could prevent the next explosion. If they could just keep their small corner of the world perfectly organized, it provided the illusion of safety, a tiny island of predictability in an ocean of turmoil. Today, your obsession with control, your need for things to be just so, your anxiety when plans change, this is not a character flaw. It is the echo of a child who is trying to find a sense of safety in a world that felt like it was constantly falling apart. The third environment is the environment of emotional neglect. In this home, you are not necessarily criticized or living in chaos. And finally, there is the environment where you were forced to be the little adult. So you arrive in adulthood with this exquisite, exhausting, and celebrated cage of perfectionism. But what is the cost of living in this cage? So how do you begin to open the door? The path out of the cage of perfectionism is not to suddenly embrace carelessness or to lower your standards to zero. The path is one of profound, radical, and revolutionary self-compassion. It is the journey of learning to embrace the concept of good enough. It begins with understanding, on the deepest level, that your worth is not a performance. It is inherent, it is your birthright. It was there the moment you were born, and it is there now, completely independent of your achievements, your successes, and your failures. You do not have to earn your right to exist, to be loved, to rest. You are already worthy. If you feel comfortable, share one small, imperfect thing you will allow yourself to do this week. It is time to rest. It is the practice of meeting your mistakes with kindness instead of cruelty. When you make a mistake and the inner critic begins its familiar tirade, you can learn to pause. You can learn to say, "I see you." That is the old voice. But we are not in that old house anymore. It is about uncoupling that drive from the terrified belief that your survival depends on it. It is about learning to create from a place of joy and passion, not from a place of fear. It is about finally giving yourself permission to get off the tightrope, to walk on the solid ground of your own unconditional self-worth, and to finally be human. And you can offer yourself the words you always needed to hear. It's okay, you made a mistake. That doesn't mean you are a mistake. What can we learn from this? You are learning to see your imperfections not as an indictment of your character, but as a normal, necessary part of growth and being human. Most importantly, it is the sacred work of reparenting the child within you. The child who is still walking that tightrope, terrified of falling. The child who is still trying to control the hurricane. The child who is still desperate to be seen. You, the wise and compassionate adult you are today, can now turn to that child and give them what they always needed. You can be the parent who says, "I see you, I love you. You don't have to be perfect to earn my love. You are allowed to be messy. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to fail. I will not leave you." This is not about destroying the parts of you that strive for excellence. If this story resonated with the perfectionist inside of you, know that you are not alone in this cage, and the door is not locked from the outside. Let's create a community of embracing good enough. And if you'd like to continue this journey of self-compassion, please subscribe. You have worked hard enough.